Millionaire woman catches janitor dancing with his daughter in a wheelchair. What happened shocked everyone. Before we begin, just know, no matter where you are in the world, I'm glad you're here. The rain hammered mercilessly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 42nd floor as Victoria Sterling stood motionless in her corner office, watching the city blur beneath threatening storm clouds. At 29, she commanded a real estate empire worth $300 million, built methodically from absolutely nothing after her parents died in a devastating car crash when she was just 18 years old. Cold, calculated, and utterly alone. That's exactly how Fortune magazine had described her just last month in their cover story about America's most ruthless young entrepreneurs. Ms. Sterling? Her assistant's voice crackled nervously through the polished chrome intercom system. The new night janitor is here for his orientation meeting. Victoria barely glanced up from her meticulously organized acquisition reports, her manicured fingers drumming impatiently against the mahogany desk that had cost more than most people's annual salaries. Handle it yourself, Janet. I don't have time for mundane staff introductions. Send him to human resources. But something indefinable made her pause and look down at the sprawling marble lobby, 42 floors below. Through the impressive glass ceiling, she could clearly see a man in his early 30s methodically pushing a yellow cleaning cart, while a little girl in a bright sunshine yellow dress skipped energetically beside him. Even from this dizzying height, she could observe the child's animated gestures, her obvious unbridled excitement at being inside such a magnificent, imposing building. Victoria's chest tightened unexpectedly, like someone had wrapped steel bands around her ribs. She hadn't witnessed a father and daughter together since. She forcefully pushed the painful memory away before it could surface completely. "Actually, Janet," she said, her voice remaining steady despite the strange, uncomfortable flutter developing in her stomach. "I'll handle the orientation meeting myself. Send him to conference room A." 25 minutes later, Victoria stepped confidently off the polished brass elevator into the gleaming marble lobby, her designer heels clicking with military precision. The janitor, Marcus Thompson according to his employment file, was patiently explaining the building's complex layout to his daughter, while she spun in delighted circles, her lightweight wheelchair temporarily forgotten by the imposing security desk. "Daddy, it's exactly like a fairy tale castle," the little girl exclaimed enthusiastically, her melodious voice echoing beautifully off the cathedral-like vaulted ceiling. Victoria approached them purposefully, her heels announcing her presence with authority. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Victoria Sterling, the building owner." She extended a perfectly manicured hand, immediately noticing how his calloused, weathered palm told unmistakable stories of years of honest, backbreaking work. "I understand you'll be working our night maintenance shift." Marcus straightened respectfully, his striking green eyes meeting hers directly without flinching. "Yes, ma'am. Thank you sincerely for this incredible opportunity. I promise you won't regret your decision to hire me. This beautiful angel is my daughter Emma," he continued warmly, gently guiding the 6-year-old forward with obvious paternal pride. "She'll be accompanying me until I can arrange proper childcare arrangements." Victoria's sharp business instincts activated immediately like a computer program. "Mr. Thompson, this is a professional corporate environment, not a community daycare center." Emma's brilliant, innocent smile faltered noticeably, and she instinctively moved closer to her father's protective presence. Victoria felt an unexpected sharp pang of guilt pierce through her carefully constructed emotional armor at witnessing the child's wounded reaction. "I understand your concerns completely," Marcus replied, his voice remaining respectful, but carrying unmistakable firmness. "It's absolutely temporary, just until our new nanny starts work next Monday morning. Emma won't interfere with my work performance in any way. I personally guarantee it." Victoria studied them both intently, her analytical mind cataloging details. The man's unwavering dedication was evident in every weathered line of his honest face, and something profound about the way Emma gazed at her father with such absolute, unquestioning trust stirred long-buried memories she'd fought desperately to forget. Her own beloved father used to look at her with that exact same expression of pure love, before the tragic accident stole away the only family she'd ever truly known. "1 week," she heard herself saying, the words escaping before her logical mind could intervene. "But if there are any disruptions whatsoever, there absolutely won't be," Marcus assured her with quiet confidence. "Thank you so much, Ms. Sterling. Your kindness means everything." As Victoria walked purposefully away, her mind reeling, She couldn't shake the persistent image of Emma's bright, trusting eyes or the gentle, loving way Marcus had spoken to his precious daughter. She told herself firmly it was simple business pragmatism. Experienced, reliable janitors were genuinely hard to find in Manhattan, but deep down in her carefully guarded heart, she knew it was something else entirely, something that would fundamentally change everything about her perfectly ordered, emotionally sterile life. 3 exhausting days later, Victoria found herself staying late at the office again, completely buried in complex contracts for her newest ambitious acquisition, a struggling hotel chain she planned to transform into luxury condominiums. The imposing building was eerily quiet except for the distant, rhythmic hum of Marcus's industrial cleaning equipment working somewhere on the lower floors. She was meticulously reviewing detailed financial projections when she heard it. Soft, melodic music drifting mysteriously up from the lobby like a gentle siren song. Curious despite her typically rigid self-discipline, Victoria made her way to the executive balcony overlooking the expansive main floor. What she witnessed made her breath catch painfully in her throat. Marcus had carefully moved the heavy lobby furniture aside, creating an open, inviting space on the polished marble floor that gleamed under the soft evening lighting. Emma sat in her compact wheelchair. When exactly had she needed that mobility aid? Clapping enthusiastically along as her devoted father performed silly, exaggerated dance moves that made her giggle uncontrollably with pure, infectious joy. "Your turn, Princess Emma," Marcus called out playfully, spinning dramatically with theatrical flair. "I can't dance anymore, Daddy," Emma said wistfully, but her radiant smile never wavered. "My legs don't work right anymore since the treatment started." Victoria gripped the cold marble railing tighter, her knuckles turning white. Anymore? What terrible thing had happened to this innocent, beautiful child? "Dancing isn't just about legs, sweetheart," Marcus said tenderly, kneeling beside the wheelchair with infinite patience. "Dancing is about feeling the music deep in your heart, letting it move your soul." He stood protectively behind Emma's chair and gently pushed it forward and back to the rhythm of the soft jazz melody playing from his worn smartphone. Emma squealed with absolute delight, throwing her thin arms wide as they swayed together in perfect harmony. "See? You're the most beautiful dancer I know," Marcus said lovingly, spinning the wheelchair in a careful, gentle circle. Victoria watched, completely transfixed, as this devoted father effortlessly created pure magic from an ordinary Tuesday evening. Emma's musical laughter filled the vast, usually cold lobby, echoing joyfully off marble walls that had never before heard such pure, unfiltered happiness. "Now watch this special move, Princess," Marcus announced, attempting what appeared to be an amusing cross between a formal waltz and comical robot dancing. Emma dissolved into helpless giggles, covering her face with her small hands. "Daddy, you're so wonderfully silly. Silly is definitely my middle name. Marcus Silly Thompson, at your royal service." He bowed dramatically with exaggerated formality, making Emma clap with uninhibited delight. Victoria felt something fundamental crack deep inside her chest. A massive emotional wall she'd built brick by careful brick over 11 long years of self-imposed isolation. She suddenly remembered her own loving father teaching her to dance in their modest apartment, her small feet standing on his large ones while he hummed old Frank Sinatra melodies. Before she realized what she was doing, Victoria was walking determinedly toward the elevator. She told herself sternly she was just checking on building security protocols, ensuring no important company policies were being violated. But as the elevator descended smoothly, carrying her toward the beautiful sound of Emma's laughter and Marcus's gentle, caring voice, Victoria knew she was lying completely to herself. She was irresistibly drawn to something she thought she'd lost forever, the precious possibility of family, of genuine human connection, of feeling something deeper than the cold satisfaction of another profitable quarter. As the polished elevator doors opened silently, Marcus looked up, genuinely surprised. "Ms. Sterling, I sincerely hope we weren't too loud." "No," Victoria said quietly, stepping into the welcoming lobby. "You weren't too loud at all." Emma waved enthusiastically from her wheelchair. "Hi, pretty lady. Do you want to dance with us? It's super fun." Victoria looked into those innocent, sparkling eyes and felt the last of her carefully constructed defenses crumble completely. I don't really dance," Victoria admitted, her voice softer and more vulnerable than either Marcus or Emma had ever heard it. Emma's adorable face scrunched up in complete disbelief. "Everyone can dance. That's what Daddy always says. Right, Daddy?" Marcus studied Victoria's carefully composed face, seeing something genuinely vulnerable beneath her polished corporate exterior. Emma's absolutely right. Would you like to try with us? Victoria hesitated nervously, glancing self-consciously at her expensive designer suit, her perfectly styled hair that had cost $300 that morning. Everything about her appearance screamed corporate precision and control, but Emma's expectant, hopeful smile was absolutely impossible to resist. I suppose, just for a moment. Marcus extended his work-worn hand with surprising grace. May I have this dance, Ms. Sterling? Victoria's fingers trembled slightly as she took his strong hand. His touch was warm and calloused from honest labor, so completely different from the soft, pampered handshakes of boardroom executives she dealt with daily. Call me Victoria, she whispered almost inaudibly. The gentle music shifted to something slower, more romantic. Marcus led her in a simple, comfortable sway. Nothing fancy or complicated, just natural movement to the rhythm. Victoria felt awkward and self-conscious at first, hyper-aware of Emma watching them with obvious delight, but gradually she began to genuinely relax. You're doing great, Marcus said softly, his voice warm with encouragement. Just let the music guide you. Don't overthink it. Spin her, Daddy, Emma called out excitedly from her wheelchair. Like you do with me during our special dances. Marcus caught Victoria's eye, silently asking permission with raised eyebrows. She nodded hesitantly, and he twirled her carefully, his strong hands gentle and sure. For just one magical moment, Victoria Sterling, CEO, Millionaire, the infamous ice queen of Manhattan real estate, felt like a regular woman dancing with a genuinely kind man, while a delighted little girl cheered them on enthusiastically. My turn, my turn. Emma clapped her hands together. Victoria surprised herself completely by kneeling gracefully beside the wheelchair. Would you teach me how to dance sitting down? I've never learned that. Emma's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Really? It's super fun. You have to move your arms like this, she demonstrated beautifully, swaying her upper body and moving her arms in graceful, fluid waves. Victoria mimicked the movements, feeling ridiculous but oddly free and uninhibited. When had she last done anything without carefully calculating the return on investment? You're a natural, Marcus said, genuine warmth filling his voice as he watched them together. Where did Emma learn to dance so beautifully? Victoria asked, genuinely curious. The bright light dimmed slightly in Marcus's green eyes. Before she got sick, Emma took ballet classes at Miss Catherine's Dance Academy. She was going to be a professional ballerina when she grew up. I still am, Emma insisted with fierce determination. Ballerinas can use wheels too, can't they, Victoria? Victoria looked at this incredibly brave little girl who absolutely refused to let anything dim her brilliant dreams, and felt something fundamental shift inside her heart. Absolutely. The most beautiful ballerinas are the ones who dance with their whole heart no matter what challenges they face. Marcus's grateful, warm smile nearly undid her emotional composure completely. Ms. Sterling, Victoria, he corrected himself gently. Thank you so much for this magical moment, for letting us. Thank you, Victoria interrupted softly, for reminding me that there are far more important things than quarterly reports and profit margins. As the gentle music faded, Emma yawned widely. Daddy, I'm getting sleepy. Time to go home, Princess. Marcus began gathering their belongings with practiced efficiency. Victoria watched them prepare to leave, feeling an unexpected, overwhelming emptiness at the thought of returning to her silent office, her empty penthouse apartment with its cold, expensive furniture. Same time tomorrow? The words slipped out before she could stop them. Marcus looked genuinely surprised. You want to dance again? Victoria lifted her chin, channeling her familiar boardroom confidence. I might need a few more lessons, that is, if it's not too much trouble for you both. Emma bounced excitedly in her wheelchair. Yes, we can teach you the spinning move and the twirling move. As they waited for Marcus to call a taxi, Victoria found herself asking, Emma, what happened? If you don't mind me asking about your condition. Marcus's jaw tightened slightly, his protective instincts evident. Leukemia. She's been fighting it courageously for 8 months now. Victoria's blood turned to ice water. This beautiful, vibrant child is she? We're very hopeful, Marcus said firmly, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. The treatments are expensive, but we're managing somehow. Emma's a fighter, the strongest person I know. As their taxi pulled away into the night, Victoria remained standing alone in the empty lobby, Emma's musical laughter still echoing in her mind. She thought about the millions sitting uselessly in her various accounts, The immense power she wielded, the influential connections she'd built over years of ruthless networking. And for the first time in years, she wondered if any of it mattered at all. Victoria couldn't concentrate on anything the next day. Every few minutes, she found herself glancing obsessively at the antique clock on her desk, calculating exactly how many hours remained until Marcus and Emma would arrive for the evening. She'd rescheduled 2 critically important meetings and declined a dinner invitation from the city's planning commissioner, something the old Victoria would never have considered doing. At exactly 6 p.m., she was waiting anxiously in the lobby. "Victoria!" Emma's delighted squeal echoed through the marble space as Marcus pushed her wheelchair through the revolving entrance doors. "Are you ready for your advanced dancing lesson? We practiced new moves." "I've been looking forward to it all day," Victoria admitted, surprising herself with her complete honesty. Marcus smiled warmly, but she noticed the tired lines around his eyes, the way his shoulders sagged slightly under some invisible weight. "Long day?" she asked gently. "Emma had a chemotherapy treatment this morning," he said quietly, trying to keep his voice light. "But she insisted she felt well enough to come tonight. Nothing keeps this one down for long." Victoria knelt beside Emma's wheelchair, noticing for the first time how thin the little girl had become beneath her bright, cheerful sweater. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her smile remained radiant. "How are you feeling, sweetheart?" "Great. The medicine makes me a little tired and queasy, but dancing makes everything better." Emma's smile was brilliant despite her obvious fatigue. "Daddy says dancing is like medicine for the heart and soul." "Your daddy is a very smart man," Victoria said, meeting Marcus's grateful gaze over Emma's head. They danced for a full hour, gentle movements that carefully accommodated Emma's fluctuating energy level. Victoria found herself laughing more than she had in years, spinning Emma's wheelchair in careful circles, while Marcus provided silly commentary that had them all giggling helplessly. "Victoria," Emma said during a break, "do you have a family?" The innocent question hit like a physical blow to her chest. Victoria's smile faltered completely. "No, sweetheart. It's just me." "That must be really lonely," Emma said with the startling wisdom that only children possess. "Would you like to share ours? Daddy says families don't have to be the same blood to love each other completely." Victoria's throat tightened painfully. That's very generous of you, Emma." Marcus cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Emma, we should let Victoria get home. It's getting late for school tomorrow." But Victoria didn't want them to go. The thought of returning to her sterile penthouse, of eating another solitary dinner while reviewing contracts, felt absolutely unbearable. "Actually," she heard herself saying, "I was wondering, would you both like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? Somewhere really nice, my treat, of course." Emma clapped her hands together excitedly. "Really? Like a real fancy restaurant?" Marcus hesitated, his pride warring with practicality. "Victoria, that's incredibly kind, but—" "Please," Victoria interrupted, her voice more vulnerable than she intended. "I'd really like that more than anything." Marcus studied her face for a long moment, seeing something genuine and desperate there. "Okay, but somewhere Emma-friendly. Nothing too formal. I know just the perfect place." Victoria smiled. After they left, Victoria found herself making phone calls she'd never imagined making. She contacted her doctor friend, Dr. Sarah Chen, asking detailed questions about pediatric oncologists. She researched children's charities, cutting-edge treatment options, experimental therapies available only at the most exclusive medical centers. For the first time in her adult life, Victoria Sterling was thinking seriously about someone other than herself and her business empire, and it felt like the most natural, important thing in the world. She was falling in love, not just with Marcus, though his kindness and strength drew her like a powerful magnet. She was falling deeply in love with the idea of family, of belonging to something infinitely bigger than quarterly profits and acquisition targets. She was falling in love with a 6-year-old girl who danced fearlessly in a wheelchair and saw the world through eyes unclouded by cynicism or fear. Victoria stared out at the glittering city lights from her office window, but for once, she wasn't thinking about the next deal, the next opportunity to expand her real estate empire. She was thinking about a little girl who might not have many tomorrows, and a father who carried the entire world on his shoulders with grace and unconditional love, and she was thinking about how she might help them both if they'd let her into their lives. The next evening, Victoria stood nervously outside Carmela's, a cozy Italian restaurant in Little Italy, checking her reflection anxiously in the window for the 5th time. She'd chosen a simple blue dress instead of her usual intimidating power suits, and she'd left her hair down for the first time in years, letting it fall naturally around her shoulders. "Victoria!" Emma's voice carried clearly across the sidewalk as Marcus pushed her wheelchair toward the restaurant. The little girl wore a pretty pink dress and had a fresh white flower tucked behind her ear. "You look absolutely beautiful," Victoria said, meaning it completely. "So do you." Emma beamed radiantly. "Doesn't she look really pretty, Daddy?" Marcus's eyes met Victoria's, and she saw something warm and genuinely appreciative there. "Very beautiful," he said softly, his voice carrying undertones that made her heart race. Inside, the restaurant owner, Mrs. Antonelli, fussed over Emma like she was her own beloved granddaughter. "Such a pretty little princess. And what a lovely family you make." Victoria felt her cheeks flush at the assumption, but didn't correct it. Neither did Marcus, she noticed. Over dinner, Emma chattered enthusiastically about everything. Her favorite books, the stray cats that lived behind their apartment building, her ambitious dreams of becoming a ballerina astronaut veterinarian. Victoria found herself hanging on every word, asking genuine questions, truly engaged in a way she hadn't been with another person in years. "Tell me about your work, Victoria," Marcus said as Emma concentrated seriously on twirling spaghetti around her fork. "It's complicated," Victoria said carefully. "I buy buildings, renovate them completely, sell them for significantly more than I paid. It's all about finding potential where others see only problems." "Like people?" Marcus asked quietly, his insight cutting straight through her. Victoria looked up, startled by the profound observation. I never thought of it that way." "Daddy sees potential in everyone," Emma piped up cheerfully. "That's why he adopted me when nobody else wanted a sick little girl." Victoria's fork clattered against her plate. "Adopted?" Marcus's face went carefully neutral. Emma's birth parents, they couldn't handle having a sick child. They surrendered their parental rights when she was first diagnosed. Victoria stared at this remarkable man who had chosen to love a dying child, who worked exhausting nights to pay for treatments for a daughter he'd chosen rather than been given by biology. Her own privileged complaints about loneliness seemed pathetically small in comparison. "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard," she whispered. "Daddy saved me," Emma said matter-of-factly, returning to her pasta. "And now I save him right back by being the best daughter ever." After dinner, they walked slowly through the charming neighborhood, Emma pointing out interesting shop windows while Marcus pushed her chair with infinite patience. Victoria found herself matching their leisurely pace, in absolutely no hurry to end this perfect evening. "Victoria," Emma said suddenly, her voice unusually serious, Do you think when I get to heaven I'll be able to dance with my legs again?" The question hit Victoria like a physical blow. Marcus stopped walking abruptly, his knuckles turning white on the wheelchair handles. "Emma," Victoria knelt beside the chair, taking the little girl's hands in hers. "I think when you get to heaven you'll be able to do anything your heart desires. But right now you're here with us and that's exactly where you belong." Emma smiled brilliantly. "That's what I think too. Besides, I'm not ready to go anywhere yet. Daddy needs me and now you need me too." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "I need you both more than you could possibly know." That night, Victoria lay awake in her penthouse, staring at the ceiling while city lights painted patterns on her walls. For the first time in 11 years, she wasn't thinking about tomorrow's meetings or next quarter's projections. She was thinking about a little girl who might not live to see her 7th birthday, and a man who loved her enough to move mountains. And she was thinking about how she could use her wealth and connections to move a few mountains herself, because Emma Thompson deserved every possible tomorrow. And Victoria Sterling was going to make absolutely sure she got them. Victoria spent the entire weekend researching pediatric cancer treatment like she once researched real estate markets, with obsessive thoroughness and unlimited resources. She called in favors from powerful connections, made discreet inquiries through her network of influential contacts, and by Monday morning, she had compiled a comprehensive list of the top specialists in the country. Dr. Michael Rodriguez at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia had pioneered a revolutionary new treatment protocol with an unprecedented 87% success rate in cases similar to Emma's. He was booked solid for the next 8 months, with a waiting list of desperate families. Victoria made one strategic phone call to a board member whose real estate portfolio she'd personally managed for 5 years. Tuesday evening, she waited in the lobby with unusual nervousness, checking her phone repeatedly. When Marcus and Emma arrived, she could barely contain her excitement. "I have something very important to tell you both," she said, kneeling beside Emma's wheelchair with barely suppressed energy. "Are you going to marry Daddy?" Emma asked innocently. Victoria's face flushed crimson while Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. Emma, you can't just ask people. It's okay, Victoria laughed, though her heart was racing unexpectedly. That's not what I wanted to tell you. Emma, how would you feel about meeting a very special doctor? Marcus tensed immediately, his protective instincts flaring. Victoria, we can't afford any experimental treatments. Dr. Rodriguez wants to see Emma this Thursday morning, in Philadelphia. All expenses paid, including travel and accommodation. The silence stretched for endless seconds. Marcus stared at her, his face cycling through disbelief, desperate hope, and something that looked almost like anger. Victoria, we absolutely can't accept. Yes, you can, she said firmly. Emma, Dr. Rodriguez has helped lots of children get completely better. He's really excited to meet you and discuss your treatment options. Will he help me dance better? Emma asked with innocent optimism. I think he'll help you dance however you want to, Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. Marcus was unusually quiet during their dance session that night, going through the familiar motions but clearly lost in overwhelming thoughts. Emma, oblivious to the underlying tension, spun and laughed as usual, her joy infectious despite everything. When Emma dozed off peacefully in her wheelchair, exhausted from the day's chemotherapy treatment, Marcus finally spoke. Why? He asked quietly, his voice barely audible. Because she deserves every possible chance, Victoria said simply. We're not your responsibility, we barely know each other, Victoria looked at this incredibly proud man who was trying so hard to maintain his dignity, while his daughter's life hung precariously in the balance. Marcus, she said softly, moving closer to him, 3 weeks ago, I thought success meant having the biggest bank account and the most impressive office in Manhattan. Then I met you both and I realized I've been living my entire adult life in a beautiful, empty shell. She moved even closer to him, her voice dropping to a whisper. Emma changed my life in ways I can't even begin to explain. She taught me what real courage looks like, what unconditional love truly means. If I can give her a chance at more birthdays, more dances, more dreams coming true, how is that not the best possible use of everything I've worked for? Marcus's voice cracked slightly. What if the treatment doesn't work? What if we give her hope and what if it does work? Victoria interrupted passionately. What if in 6 months Emma is running around a playground instead of sitting in that wheelchair? What if she lives to become that ballerina astronaut veterinarian she talks about constantly? Marcus looked down at his sleeping daughter, her face peaceful and trusting even in sleep, the flower still tucked behind her ear. She's not just fighting for her life anymore, Victoria continued, her voice filled with determination. She's fighting for our future too, all 3 of us together. Marcus raised his eyes to meet hers, and Victoria saw the exact moment he stopped fighting her generosity and started hoping instead. Thursday morning, he said quietly, his voice filled with new possibility. Thursday morning, Victoria confirmed, reaching out to squeeze his hand gently. As she watched Marcus gently wake Emma and prepare to take her home, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Purpose beyond profit, meaning beyond success, hope beyond her wildest dreams. She was no longer just Victoria Sterling, the ice queen of Manhattan real estate. She was about to become part of something infinitely more important. She was about to become family, and nothing would ever be the same again. Thursday morning arrived with the crisp promise of autumn in Philadelphia. Victoria had arranged for a private jet, but Marcus insisted they fly commercial, his pride still intact despite accepting her help. Emma pressed her face against the airplane window, marveling at the clouds below. Look, Daddy, we're dancing with the sky, she exclaimed, her wheelchair secured beside their seats. Dr. Rodriguez's office at Children's Hospital was warm and inviting, decorated with colorful artwork from young patients. Emma immediately gravitated toward a painting of a ballerina in a rainbow tutu. That's beautiful, Victoria said, kneeling beside her. Maya painted that, Dr. Rodriguez said, entering with a warm smile. She's 8 now, completely cancer-free, and just started advanced ballet classes. Marcus's eyes filled with hope he'd been afraid to feel. Dr. Rodriguez examined Emma thoroughly, his gentle manner putting her at ease. Tell me about dancing, Emma. I hear you're quite the performer. I dance with my heart, Emma said seriously. Even when my legs don't work, my heart always knows the steps. After extensive tests, Dr. Rodriguez met privately with Marcus and Victoria. Emma's case is challenging but not hopeless. Her leukemia has a specific genetic marker that responds exceptionally well to our new CAR T-cell therapy. What does that mean? Marcus asked, his voice tight with tension. We extract Emma's own immune cells, reprogram them to fight the cancer, then reintroduce them. The success rate for her specific subtype is 92%. Victoria felt her heart stop. 92%. The treatment is intensive, 6 weeks here in Philadelphia, but if successful, Emma could be in complete remission within 3 months. Marcus stared at the floor, overwhelmed. The cost is completely covered, Victoria said firmly. Whatever it takes. Dr. Rodriguez smiled. There's something else. We have a small apartment on site for families during treatment. Emma would have access to our art therapy, music therapy, and yes, our adaptive dance program. Emma's eyes lit up when they told her. Real dancing? With other kids? Real dancing with kids who understand exactly what you're going through, Dr. Rodriguez confirmed. That evening, in their hotel room, Emma fell asleep between Marcus and Victoria as they watched her favorite movie. Victoria found herself studying the little girl's peaceful face, memorizing every detail. I'm scared, Marcus whispered in the darkness. Victoria reached across Emma to touch his hand. Me too. But look at her. She's not scared at all. She trusts everyone completely. Sometimes I think that's her superpower. Maybe it is, Victoria said softly. Maybe that's how she'll beat this. In the morning, they met with the treatment team. The process would begin immediately. Emma would need a central line placed, daily medications, and constant monitoring. I want to stay, Victoria announced suddenly. For the entire 6 weeks. Marcus looked shocked. Victoria, you can't abandon your business. I can run my company from anywhere. Emma needs us both. Dr. Rodriguez's nurse Sarah knelt beside Emma's wheelchair. Are you ready to become one of our warrior princesses? Emma nodded solemnly. Will it hurt? Sometimes, Sarah said honestly. But you'll never be alone. And at the end, you'll be stronger than ever. As they prepared Emma for her first treatment, Victoria watched Marcus hold his daughter's hand, whispering words of encouragement. She realized she was witnessing the purest form of love, a father willing to watch his child suffer in order to save her life. Victoria, Emma called softly, will you and Daddy dance for me during the treatment? It helps when I'm scared. Victoria looked at Marcus, seeing her own determination reflected in his eyes. Every day, sweetheart. We'll dance every single day. The first week of treatment tested everyone's limits. Emma's tiny body fought against the powerful medications, leaving her nauseated and exhausted. But every afternoon at 3 o'clock, Victoria and Marcus transformed the small hospital room into a dance floor. Other children began gathering in the doorway, watching from their wheelchairs and hospital beds. Soon, nurses joined in, then doctors during their breaks. Emma's room became the heart of the pediatric ward. You're creating something beautiful here, Dr. Rodriguez told Victoria during one of Emma's treatments. These children need hope as much as medicine. Victoria had been working on her laptop when she noticed Emma watching her intently. What is it, sweetheart? Are you sad because you're not home? Victoria closed her laptop completely. Emma, home isn't a place. Home is where the people you love are. So we're all home together? Yes, Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. We're all home together. Marcus overheard from the hallway, where he'd been speaking with other parents. When he returned, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. Thank you, he whispered to Victoria, for giving her a family. For giving us a family, Victoria corrected. By the second week, Emma's white blood cell counts began improving dramatically. Dr. Rodriguez was cautiously optimistic, but warned them the real test would come later. Emma had befriended her roommate, a 7-year-old boy named Tyler who was recovering from brain surgery. Together they planned elaborate dance performances for the other patients. Victoria, Emma said one evening as they watched the sunset from her window. Tyler's mommy can't stay with him because she has to work. Can we adopt him too? Victoria's heart clenched. It doesn't work that way, sweetie. But families help each other, right? We could help Tyler's family. That night, Victoria found herself researching Tyler's situation. His mother was a single parent, struggling to keep her job while her son battled cancer. Victoria made a discreet phone call to the hospital's social worker. Marcus found her in the family lounge at midnight, still on her laptop. You can't save everyone, he said gently, sitting beside her. I can try, Victoria replied. Emma's teaching me that love isn't limited. The more you give, the more you have. That's a dangerous philosophy for someone with your resources. Victoria looked at him seriously. Marcus, what if we started a foundation for families like Tyler's, like yours used to be? What if we could help other children get the treatment they need? Marcus stared at her. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. The third week brought complications. Emma developed a fever that spiked dangerously high. For 2 terrifying days, she drifted in and out of consciousness while Victoria and Marcus maintained a constant vigil. Talk to her, the nurse encouraged. She can hear you. Victoria leaned close to Emma's ear. Remember our first dance, sweetheart? You taught me that dancing isn't about perfect steps. It's about feeling the music in your heart. Your heart is so strong, Emma. Stronger than any medicine. Marcus took Emma's other hand. Princess, we need you to fight. Victoria and we need our best dancing partner. Emma's eyes fluttered open. Did I miss dance time? Victoria laughed through her tears. Never. We never missed dance time. That afternoon, even though Emma could barely lift her head, they danced. Victoria and Marcus swayed gently beside her bed while Emma moved her fingers to the rhythm, conducting their movements like a tiny orchestra director. Dr. Rodriguez watched from the doorway, amazed. In 20 years of pediatric oncology, I've never seen anything quite like this. By week 4, Emma's recovery accelerated dramatically. Her appetite returned, her energy improved, and most importantly, her smile was brighter than ever. The treatment is working beyond our best projections, Dr. Rodriguez announced during their weekly meeting. Emma's response has been extraordinary. That evening, Emma insisted on a celebration dance party in the common room. Children from across the ward joined in, some in wheelchairs, others trailing IV poles, all moving to the music with pure joy. Victoria watched Marcus spin Emma's wheelchair as other families clapped along, and realized this was what happiness looked like. Not the cold satisfaction of a successful business deal, but the warm chaos of people who chose to love each other. You know what the best part is? Emma whispered to Victoria during a quiet moment. What's that, sweetheart? We're going to dance at my wedding someday, all 3 of us together. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Yes, we are, I promise. Week 5 brought the most critical phase of treatment. Emma's new immune cells were working, but her body was exhausted from the intensive therapy. She slept more, spoke less, but never missed their daily dance sessions. I had a dream last night, Emma told Victoria during one of their quiet moments. I dreamed I was dancing on a big stage and you and Daddy were in the audience clapping. That wasn't a dream, sweetheart, that was a preview. Dr. Rodriguez had been monitoring Emma's progress closely. The final test results would determine if the treatment had been successful or if they needed to explore other options. Victoria found herself praying for the first time since her parents' death, not to any specific deity but to whatever force in the universe might be listening. Marcus spent his days researching dance schools for children with disabilities, planning for Emma's future with an optimism that both inspired and terrified Victoria. What if the treatment doesn't work? Victoria asked him one evening. Then we love her completely for whatever time we have, Marcus replied simply. But it's going to work. I can feel it. Tyler's mother, Mrs. Chen, approached Victoria in the family lounge. Thanks to Victoria's discreet intervention, she'd been able to take leave from work to stay with her son. I don't know how to thank you, she said, tears in her eyes. Love your son. That's all the thanks I need. Emma talks about you constantly. She says you're proof that angels don't always have wings. Victoria smiled through her own tears. Emma's the angel. I'm just learning how to fly. The test results came back on a Friday morning. Dr. Rodriguez called them into his office with an expression Victoria couldn't read. Please sit down, he said formally. Emma climbed onto Marcus's lap while Victoria gripped the arms of her chair. Emma, Dr. Rodriguez said, looking directly at the little girl, how would you like to go home and start planning your comeback dance performance? The room erupted. Marcus sobbed openly while Victoria laughed and cried simultaneously. Emma looked confused by all the emotion. Does this mean I'm better? She asked. This means you're in complete remission, Dr. Rodriguez explained. The cancer is gone, Emma. All of it. Emma considered this seriously. So I can dance with my legs again? With time and physical therapy, yes. Your legs should work perfectly. That afternoon, the entire pediatric ward celebrated Emma's recovery. Nurses brought cake. Other families joined the party, and Emma held court from her wheelchair like the princess she'd always been. Victoria, she said during the festivities, now that I'm better, will you still want to be my family? Victoria knelt beside the wheelchair, taking Emma's small hands in hers. Emma Thompson, nothing in this world could make me stop being your family. Nothing. Good, Emma said matter-of-factly, because I already picked out your dress for when you marry Daddy. Marcus choked on his cake while Victoria turned crimson. Emma, what? You love each other. I can tell because you look at each other the same way Daddy looks at me. That evening, As they packed Emma's belongings, Victoria found Marcus standing alone on the hospital balcony, looking out at the city lights. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, joining him. "I was thinking about the night we met," Marcus said. "If someone had told me then that this beautiful, successful woman would become the most important person in my daughter's life, in our lives, I would never have believed it." Victoria moved closer to him. "If someone had told me I'd find my family in a janitor and his 6-year-old daughter, I would have had them committed." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city below. "Marcus," Victoria said softly, "Emma was right, you know, about us." Marcus turned to look at her. "Victoria, I love you," she said simply. "I love you both, more than I thought possible." Marcus cupped her face gently in his hands. "I love you too. God help me, I've loved you since that first night you joined our dance." When they kissed, Victoria felt like she was finally coming home after years of wandering in the wilderness. From inside the room, Emma's voice called out, "I knew it! Tyler owes me $5. They broke apart, laughing. "How long has she been planning this?" Victoria asked. "Since the day she met you," Marcus replied. "Emma always knows these things before the rest of us." 6 months later, Emma stood at the bar in Miss Catherine's dance academy, her legs strong and steady. Victoria watched from the observation window as Emma performed a perfect plie, her face glowing with concentration and joy. "She's remarkable," Miss Catherine said, joining Victoria. "In all my years of teaching, I've never seen a child fight so hard to get back to dance." "She's remarkable in every way," Victoria agreed. The academy had become Victoria's latest investment, not for profit, but for purpose. She'd purchased the struggling studio and transformed it into a specialized program for children recovering from serious illnesses. Marcus finished his shift at the hospital where he now worked as a patient advocate, helping other families navigate the complex world of pediatric medicine. Dr. Rodriguez had personally recommended him for the position after witnessing his dedication during Emma's treatment. "How's our ballerina today?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arms around Victoria from behind. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." They'd been married for 3 months in a small ceremony at the hospital chapel. Emma had served as both flower girl and maid of honor, insisting that Victoria wear the dress she'd picked out months earlier. "Daddy, Victoria, watch this," Emma called from across the studio. She executed a flawless pirouette, her face radiant with accomplishment. The other children in the class, all survivors themselves, applauded enthusiastically. "That's my daughter," Victoria whispered, still amazed by how naturally the word came now. "Our daughter," Marcus corrected gently. The Sterling Thompson Foundation had officially launched the previous month, with Emma as its youngest board member. They'd already helped 12 families access treatment for their children, with many more applications pending. "Victoria," Emma said during their drive home, "I have an idea for the foundation." "What's that, sweetheart?" "What if we taught other sick kids to dance, not just when they get better, but while they're still fighting?" Victoria exchanged a look with Marcus in the rearview mirror. "That's a brilliant idea. What would we call this program?" Emma considered seriously. "Dancing Through the Storm, because sometimes you have to dance even when it's raining." That evening, they danced in their living room as they did every night, a tradition that had followed them from the hospital lobby to their new home. Emma's movements were strong and fluid now, but the joy remained exactly the same. "I love our new house," Emma said, spinning between her parents. "But I love our family most." Victoria felt tears prick her eyes. Their journey had been unexpected, challenging, and absolutely perfect. "Emma," she said, "do you remember what you told me the first night we danced? That everyone can dance? That, and something else. You said dancing is about feeling the music in your heart." Emma nodded. "That's still true. Well, I want you to know that meeting you and Daddy taught me how to hear that music again. You saved my heart." Emma hugged Victoria tightly. "We saved each other. That's what families do." As they prepared for bed, Emma made an announcement. "I've decided what I want to be when I grow up. A ballerina, astronaut, veterinarian?" Marcus asked with a smile. "No," Emma said seriously. "I want to be like Victoria. I want to help families find each other." Victoria's throat tightened with emotion. "That's the most beautiful dream I've ever heard." Later, after Emma was asleep, Victoria and Marcus sat on their back porch watching the stars. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't decided to check on us that night?" Marcus asked. Victoria considered the question. "I try not to. This timeline is the only one that matters." "No regrets about leaving your old life behind?" Victoria laughed softly. "Marcus, I didn't leave my old life behind. I finally started living. A year ago, Victoria Sterling had been the loneliest successful person in Manhattan. Tonight, she was exactly where she belonged, surrounded by love, purpose, and the sweet sound of her daughter's peaceful breathing in the room above. She'd learned that the most valuable acquisition wasn't a building or a company. It was a family, and the most profitable investment wasn't measured in dollars. It was measured in love. 2 years after Emma's recovery, the Sterling Thompson Foundation had grown into a national organization. Victoria stood before a crowd of 500 donors at their annual gala, but her eyes were fixed on one special table in the front. Emma, now 8 and glowing with health, sat between Marcus and Tyler, who had become like a little brother to her. Tyler's mother, Mrs. Chen, worked as the foundation's family liaison coordinator. Several other families they'd helped over the years filled the surrounding tables. 3 years ago, Victoria began her speech, I thought I knew what success looked like. I measured it in profit margins and acquisition targets. Tonight I want to tell you about a different kind of success. She gestured toward Emma's table. Success is watching a little girl who was told she might never walk again perform in her first dance recital last month. Success is seeing families who thought they had no options discover that they're not alone. The audience listened intently as Victoria shared their story. The late-night dances in the hospital lobby, the terrifying weeks of treatment, the moment they became a family. The Sterling Thompson Foundation has helped over 200 children access life-saving treatment. But more importantly, we've learned that healing happens not just in hospitals but in communities, in connections, in the simple act of choosing to care for one another. Emma stood on her chair and waved, making the audience chuckle. Victoria blew her a kiss. Our newest initiative, Dancing Through the Storm, now operates in 15 children's hospitals across the country. Because sometimes, when you're fighting for your life, you need to remember that life is still worth celebrating. After the gala, they returned home to find a special surprise waiting. Dr. Rodriguez had flown in from Philadelphia with news about their latest research breakthrough. Emma's case study has helped us develop an even more effective treatment protocol, he announced. Her recovery has literally saved other children's lives. Emma listened seriously to the medical explanation, then asked, So helping me helped other kids too? Exactly, Dr. Rodriguez confirmed. That's good, Emma said matter-of-factly. Daddy always says the best gifts are the ones you can share. Later that evening, as they sat in the garden behind their house, Emma made an announcement that surprised everyone. I want to visit the kids in the hospital tomorrow, the ones who are scared and don't know if they'll get better. Are you sure, sweetheart? Victoria asked. It might be difficult to see other children going through what you experienced. Emma nodded firmly. They need to know that someone who understands is thinking about them, and maybe we could dance with them, if they want to. The next day, they returned to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, not as patients this time, but as visitors bringing hope. Emma moved through the pediatric ward like a tiny ambassador of possibility, sharing her story with children who needed to believe in tomorrow. In one room, they met a little boy named Jamie, who reminded Victoria painfully of Emma during her sickest days. He was 5 years old and had been fighting leukemia for 6 months. Do you really dance? Jamie asked Emma weakly. Want me to show you? Emma replied, immediately beginning a gentle, graceful routine that she'd adapted for the small space. Jamie's eyes lit up with wonder. That's beautiful. Your turn, Emma said, sitting beside his bed. You can dance with just your hands if that's all that feels good today. Victoria watched her daughter, their daughter, teach this frightened little boy that he could still find joy even in the darkest moments. It was exactly what Emma had done for Victoria 3 years ago. Marcus slipped his hand into Victoria's. She's going to change the world, isn't she? She already has, Victoria whispered. That evening, Jamie's mother approached them in the hospital corridor. Thank you, she said simply. Jamie hasn't smiled in weeks. What Emma did today, it gave him hope. Emma gave us all hope, Victoria replied. As they drove home, Emma was unusually quiet in the back seat. What are you thinking about, sweetheart? Marcus asked. I was thinking about before I got sick, Emma said. I don't remember being scared then, but I don't remember being really happy either. Victoria turned in her seat to look at her daughter. What do you mean? Being sick was terrible, Emma said thoughtfully. But it also brought us together, and now we help other families find each other too. So maybe even bad things can turn into good things if you love each other enough. Victoria felt tears sting her eyes. This wise, beautiful child continued to amaze her every day. Emma, she said softly, that might be the most intelligent thing anyone has ever said. Really? Emma brightened. Does that mean I can stay up an extra hour tonight? Marcus laughed. Nice try, philosopher. Bedtime is still bedtime. As they tucked Emma into bed that night, she had one more surprise for them. I know what I want for my birthday next month, she announced. What's that? Victoria asked. I want us to adopt Tyler officially, and maybe Jamie too when he gets better. I want our family to be as big as our hearts. Victoria looked at Marcus, seeing her own thoughts reflected in his eyes. Their family had started with a chance encounter in a corporate lobby, but it had grown into something neither of them could have imagined. We'll talk about it, Marcus said gently. That's parent code for yes, Emma said wisely, making them both laugh. That night, Victoria lay in bed thinking about the journey that had brought them to this moment. She'd started as a woman who had everything money could buy but nothing that truly mattered. Now she had everything that mattered most. And the best part was knowing that their story was still being written. One dance, one day, one act of love at a time. Emma's 9th birthday party was unlike any celebration Victoria had ever imagined hosting. Their backyard was filled with children from the Foundation's programs, hospital staff who had become family, and the extended network of people whose lives had been touched by their journey. Tyler, now officially adopted and thriving after his own successful treatment, helped Emma blow out the candles on her elaborate ballet-themed cake. Jamie, whose treatment had been successful thanks to the new protocol Emma's case had helped develop, spun in circles with pure joy. Make a wish, princess, Marcus encouraged. Emma closed her eyes tightly, then opened them with a brilliant smile. I wished for everyone to be as happy as we are right now. That's a pretty big wish, Victoria said, hugging her daughter close. The biggest wishes are the most important ones, Emma replied with the wisdom that continued to astound everyone who knew her. Dr. Rodriguez had traveled from Philadelphia for the celebration, bringing news that made the day even more special. The Dancing Through the Storm program has been so successful that we're implementing it internationally, he announced to the gathered crowd. Emma's idea is going to help children around the world. Emma beamed with pride. Daddy, does this mean kids in other countries will learn that they can dance even when they're scared? That's exactly what it means, Marcus confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. As the afternoon wound down and guests began to leave, Victoria found herself standing at the kitchen window, watching Emma and Tyler chase butterflies in the garden, while Jamie's parents thanked Marcus for helping them navigate their son's treatment. Mrs. Chen approached carrying a stack of letters. These came to the foundation office this week, she said. Letters from families whose children are in the dance program. Victoria read through them with tears in her eyes. Story after story of children finding hope and healing through movement, families discovering strength they didn't know they possessed, medical staff inspired by the simple power of joy in the midst of suffering. Emma started something incredible, Mrs. Chen said softly. Emma started a revolution, Victoria corrected. She proved that healing isn't just about medicine. It's about connection, community, and the courage to keep dancing even when the music seems to stop. That evening, after all the guests had gone home and the boys were asleep in their rooms, Victoria and Marcus found Emma in her bedroom, already in her pajamas but sitting at her window, looking out at the stars. What are you thinking about, sweetheart? Victoria asked, sitting beside her on the bed. I was thinking about that night when we first danced together, Emma said. Do you remember what you told me? That the most beautiful ballerinas are the ones who dance with their whole heart, Victoria recalled. Emma nodded. I think we've all learned how to do that now. Dance with our whole hearts, I mean. Marcus joined them on the bed, completing their circle. Emma, you've taught us that there are many different kinds of dancing. There's the dancing we do with our bodies, but there's also the dancing we do with our lives. What do you mean? Emma asked, curious. I mean the way we move through the world with grace and kindness, Victoria explained. The way we lift each other up when someone falls. The way we choose love even when it's difficult. Emma considered this seriously. So, helping other families is like dancing. The most beautiful kind of dancing, Marcus confirmed. Emma curled up between her parents just as she had during those long nights in the hospital. But now, instead of fear and uncertainty, their quiet moments were filled with gratitude and unshakable love. Victoria, Emma said sleepily, I'm glad you were lonely that night you found us dancing. Victoria's breath caught. Why, sweetheart? Because if you hadn't been lonely, you might not have come downstairs, and then we never would have become a family. Victoria looked at Marcus over Emma's head, seeing the same wonder in his eyes that she felt in her heart. Their daughter had just articulated the beautiful paradox of their love story, that sometimes you have to be lost before you can be found, lonely, before you can truly appreciate belonging. Emma, Victoria whispered, you've given me the greatest gift anyone could ever receive. What's that? You taught me that love multiplies when you share it. The more people we help, the more love we have. The bigger our family gets, the stronger we become. Emma smiled sleepily. That's the secret of dancing with your whole heart. There's always room for one more person on the dance floor. As Emma drifted off to sleep, Victoria reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. 3 years ago, she had been a successful businesswoman with an empty heart and a sterile life. Tonight, she was surrounded by the messy, beautiful chaos of a family that had chosen each other, a foundation that was changing lives around the world, and the deep satisfaction that came from knowing their love story was still being written. She thought about all the children who were dancing tonight in hospitals around the world, finding courage in movement and hope in music. She thought about the families who no longer faced their darkest moments alone, connected now to a community that understood their journey. And she thought about a little girl who had taught the world that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't money or medicine or even miracles. It was love that danced, bold, generous, and absolutely unstoppable. Emma stirred in her sleep, reaching instinctively for both her parents' hands. Even in dreams, she was still bringing them together, still teaching them that the best kind of success was the kind you could share. Victoria closed her eyes and listened to the quiet breathing of her family, the sound of Tyler and Jamie peaceful in their rooms down the hall, and the distant music of a world where more children went to sleep tonight, believing in tomorrow because a little girl had taught them how to dance through any storm. The Ice Queen of Manhattan real estate had finally learned the most important lesson of all. The greatest acquisition was love, and the most profitable investment was in each other. And the dance would go on, growing wider and more beautiful with each new heart that learned to join the rhythm of hope.